I wanted to make this video for a while now, but I don't like to discuss anything unless I'm confident that I know enough about what I'm talking about to discuss it. A few months ago, I was able to test out the Oculus Rift, and just a few days ago, I was able to try out the HTC Vive, and now that I've been able to play around with both of them, I think it's a good time to talk about the pros and cons to them, as well as how things are going in the industry and their correlation to virtual reality as of yet. So let's get into the pros first. I cannot describe to you how it feels to put on a virtual reality headset and actually become immersed into a different world. When you're watching others play games through the mirror on the screen, you look at said game and think, the graphics aren't that good. The anti-aliasing is abysmal. It's super pixelated and everything looks like a cartoon, but then you put on the headset and it becomes real life. You don't notice the graphics unless you're looking for it. When I put the headset on and started looking at the textures, I wasn't disappointed, especially since I could move around the world and get up close and personal with everything on the map. And really, I only ever dreamt of this as a kid. Being in a video game always seemed like a fantasy, but here we are, and we're only going to move forward with this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Now with the Oculus Rift, I used a controller to play a little 3D platforming game, and it was a lot of fun. I could zoom into the character or zoom out by moving my head in or out, and thought this was really cool, and it wasn't until I tried the Vive where I used the controllers for it. And that's when it really felt 100% like I was in the game. The games I was playing, the way I moved, it was like a Wiimote, but a billion times better. Even with the helmet on, I could see the remotes because they were no longer an entity in my world. They were an entity in the new universe that I was in. And the coolest thing is the power that you have at your fingertips. There are a lot of games that turn them into guns, or throw knives, or bows and arrows, and you actually feel that. I played a medieval bow and arrow game for about 10 minutes, and my arms actually got tired from the repetitive motion. I was exercising, and I was part of the game, and the feedback from those remotes when I fire a gun, throw a blade, or release an arrow feels very nice. Not realistic, but nice. And really, I think a heavier motor in the remotes would do it well to simulate better tactile feedback. The last thing I loved was, when it came to the Vive, it was a Steam-based headset, and Valve wasted no time letting modders implement fun and creative skins for the boot world and the lighthouses. Really, the modding scene for this is going to be and already is great. Also, I'd like to say that of the two headsets, I really liked the Vive more. Granted, I did spend more time with the Vive, but I feel like it had more to offer to the consumer, and that's why I'm talking about it more. But I did enjoy my time with both headsets. Now let's get into the cons of the headsets, for there are many. As usual, everything has pitfalls, and I really like talking about the negatives to things just in case something bad happens. I like to know what could go wrong, and I like to know the faults of things. It means things can improve, and in a small way, I can help them get there. The first thing that really bothered me about them, especially with the Oculus Rift, was I was stationary, stuck in a bubble, and I really wasn't free to move around much. There are games that let you move around, but I found more lenience with the Vive. Now when I say more lenience, I mean like 2 extra steps. You really don't have a lot of mobility as of right now, and I understand that prototypes like the Omni are hopefully going to remedy these problems. But how far am I going to go to play video games in virtual reality? Am I really going to have to build another room in my house so I can move around with the headset, or put an Omni in my house? Realistically, this is not going to go well. Now I saw a few games implement fixes to this rather well, mostly teleporting mechanics, which if done right do not break the immersion of the games at all. Done wrong, they're terrible, but the one that I saw was using the controller on the Vive to propel yourself forward, and that was the worst idea that I've ever felt. I got motion sick, I felt dizzy, and I was falling over because my body was feeling like I should be moving, but I wasn't, and that did not feel good for the rest of the day. So I hope to see some real progress in this, and it would be nice to see what they come up with when it comes to moving in the new world that you're in. For my second con, I want to bring back the Omni real quick. For those out there who think that this might be the solve-all for your problems, it actually won't. The Omni is a strap-in device where you're stuck and can only run. A lot of games ask you to duck and jump, so this doesn't solve all your movement issues. Now there's one thing that's stopping me in my tracks from actually buying a Vive. If I was going to get a headset, I would get the Vive, but because of this one thing, I'm not going to do it. The cord. The Vive and the Rift are powered through a power cord, and this is logical. Of course, a battery system would be extremely hard to implement, and probably wouldn't last a very long time, but the cord does more to break the immersion than anything else about the machine. Even talking to my friends while playing and not being able to see them in my world wasn't as bad, but tripping and stumbling over the cord is impossible, and I have no idea how they could remedy this. It may be something we have to deal with even as VR gets more advanced and innovates. I really don't know how they'll fix it, but it does not help either headset when it comes to immersive gameplay. Now, one question many asked about the headsets when they first came out is, are they heavy? And that's a valid question. I hate wearing headphones when I play games for this very reason, and my headset is super light. Why would I tolerate a heavy piece of plastic on my face? And really, both of them were pretty heavy, but the bands that strap over your head help to relieve a lot of the gravity pushing down on the front of the headset. Regardless, both of them are kinda lunky, and you will feel them on your face, obviously. However, I don't recall having such an issue with the weight that I had to stop. They balance out pretty well, so when it comes down to this, the issue is minor. Now, of course you knew I was going to say it, but there are FOV issues, especially with the Oculus Rift. I played a few games on the Rift, and I got motion sickness each time. Now, one could argue that it could have been on the computer that I was playing, but no. The computer had a 980 in it, whereas the computer with the Vive had a lower spec R9 in it, and I got less motion sick with the Vive. There were only a few games on the Vive that actually made me sick, and it was due to mostly frame rate issues rather than field of view. I don't care what anyone says, if the game is not running at least 90 FPS, you will get sick. Your brain needs a constant frame rate in order for the headset to trick your mind into thinking that you're in a different world. If you see frame rate issues in your world, no matter who you are, and even if you've never had motion sickness before, you will feel sick, which is another con to this. Games are pretty much going to look the way they do now because they can't run at sub 90 FPS. The game will actually be unplayable. So I'm curious as to what they might do with this. Optimization may very well get a lot better, but then again, with the industry being as lazy as it is, I'm a little afraid of what might happen here. Now, along with that, I mentioned that you can get motion sick, but one more thing I would like to add is for the most part, as I played games, I didn't suffer from motion sickness. However, when I watched people play from the mirror screen, which is basically a window on the monitor which lets friends watch what you're doing, I got motion sickness watching that. I know this sounds weird, and really there isn't much they can do about this, but that was the biggest thing for me. And I felt it should be addressed, because if you're like me, and you like watching your friends play, as well as suffer from motion sickness like I do, this could affect you. As of right now, there's not a huge selection of games, obviously, and purchasing one of these, as of right now, would be like buying a new console. Sure, the tech demos are nice, but you're gonna be waiting a while until full games come out, which kinda sucks. So I suggest waiting a while until all the demos become full games and the price of the headsets can actually justify themselves. The next con is tactile feedback. This is going to be a short one and really only works for the Vive as of right now, but the controllers for the Vive represent an object in the game, and as of right now, I noticed that they have tactile feedback for big things, but not smaller things. Like when I played a mini golf game, I was able to hit the ball and actually feel the controller vibrate as I hit the ball, which was cool. But when I hit a pole, or the ground, or objects around the map, nothing happened, and I feel like more feedback would help immerse the player a lot better. The last con is going to be directed at the Oculus Rift. As of right now, if you were to ask me which headset I would purchase, I would tell you the Vive. It has more features for the consumer, it felt a lot better to play, I personally felt less motion sickness, and the Vive is connected to Steam for ease of access. However, the biggest thing that would make me choose the Vive is that it's not being shady. It's not trying to lock me away, and it isn't trying to damage its competition like the Oculus is. Let me get into this real quick. The Oculus Rift games cannot be played on the Vive, but the Vive games can be played on the Rift. Now, a modder decided this wasn't very cool and implemented a way for the Vive to be able to play Rift games. The mod was called Revive, and it worked pretty much flawlessly. Oculus then came out with an update which broke the mod and rendered it useless, and then came out and said that they had no intention to lock anyone out. And they had no intention to break the mod. But when we looked at the update to see what Oculus was trying to do, it looked as though the only thing the update did was break the mod. So this was exactly what they were trying to do. Now, you know me. I don't like anti-consumer business practices. I don't like exclusives, and I don't trust companies who do shady things like this, and the second I heard this, they lost me as a potential consumer. And they've pretty much lost my interest forever. A company who is that greedy, a company who lies to their consumers so blatantly and so early in the device's life, is not showing me that they're going to have a good track record. If I wanted to be controlled, told what to do, I'd go back to playing on consoles, but I'm a PC gamer. I want more options, and I don't want this behavior in the industry that I care about, so Oculus has a lot to prove at this point. So where do I stand on this? Well, I think virtual reality has a lot of potential, not just in the video game field, but medical, engineering, art, and I really love how technology is growing, but as of right now, I suggest holding off. These are but the first models, and they've already made some mistakes, have some tweaking to do. I think the second or third models could really show the improvement, and maybe we'll see a headset one day that's wireless, lets you move around more, and isn't backed by a shady company. I really loved my experiences with both headsets, and I'll continue to use them. After playing with the headsets, I find myself wishing that I was playing them more and more. It's such a different experience, and adding it to the gaming platform is going to do well for the industry, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. One day, we might actually be in the video game itself, on a whole new level, maybe firing guns and running around, or maybe just walking around the neighborhood collecting Pokemon. Augmented reality is so cool.